Hey everyone, Mr. Happy here, and I'm going to be doing an overview on the patch 7.2 part 1 live letter. What live letter is this? 85? I always forget. Like, if it's not right in front of me, I just forget all the time. It doesn't matter. This is our first live letter talking about patch 7.2, just basically an introduction to everything. Some of this stuff we've been expecting to hear about for a very long time. Some of these things were minor surprises to us, but we really weren't blindsided by too much other than some specific exciting details, especially in the later half about the Occult Crescent that I think a lot of people are going to be excited for. So the first little bit here was just them kind of, talking about what they're going to talk about. Most things are finished, so now they're going to have to do a lot of play testing and debugging and stuff. Then we got the patch artwork, which has a number of different things on it. So for one, we have a new character in the MSQ, which looks like Evil Asahi there in the top left. We have Sphene, that's definitely the evil Sphene that we dealt with in the previous patch. Wuklamot, Warrior of Light, and then we've got some stuff that looks like it's probably from the Arcadion. There's like an antlion looking boss in the top right, so I assume one of the competitors will be will use an antlion as one of their creatures. We can also see what looks to be kind of a boss in the bottom left, as well as another creature that a couple of adventurers are fighting at the top. We've been told that there's a mix of things in regards to MSQ versus the trial versus the dungeon, Arcadion, like all of the different patch elements are present here. You can also see, what's it called? Black Cat, I think, there in the middle left. I think that's Black Cat. I don't think that's Wicked Thunder. So yeah, there's just a whole bunch of different details. Really cool artwork. Now, the name of the artwork is more interesting. The name of the patch is Seekers of Eternity. For those who have been paying attention to the story, Evil Sphene was basically made by the Preservation. And the Preservation, we assume, are the actual kind of true villains behind everything that's happening. We assume they're also responsible for Sphene's return at 7.1. Some part of their program causing Sphene to return and play a major role in the story again. So Seekers of Eternity just sounds like the Preservation. And it's where a lot of people's theories about there being some sort of Ascian involvement probably come into play, if at all. I think Pashtarot was the Seeker, was the Scion of Light that people noted for the potential. That everyone was looking at Sphene, and I think it was Pashtarot that people were theorizing was behind the Preservation in some capacity. I don't remember. It's been a while since I've had to talk about this, but that's where the majority of the questions are actually taking place right now. So we'll definitely get more information about that later. Now, late March release is along the lines of my prediction. I said March 25th. For those who don't know, if you're ever looking to predict patches, 19 weeks apart from the actual major numbered patch release. So from 7.1 to 7.2, March 25th is exactly 19 weeks. There is room for it to occasionally be 20 weeks, but 19 weeks is usually the predicted rate. Hence why it's kind of a surprise that it seems like we're only going to get 2 major patches in this year. The next major patch will be so close to the end of the year, they might just delay it until the new year. It's always possible that they planned for 20-week patch cycles, in which case they would only technically be planning for 2 major patches, but there is the real possibility that 7.4 could be another kind of Christmas lineup. If not, it'll be right after the new year. Like I said, they might deliberately hold back on that one, we'll have to see. But yes, that is in line with the prediction. Patch 7.18, which will be the 25th of February, is where you should be seeing the unlock of the Savage tier as well. In my opinion, far too late. Should definitely be way, way, way earlier, months ago from even now, to be completely honest with you. And we also learned later that there's another reward in 7.18. Nothing major, but it'll come up later in the live letter. So they did briefly talk about the blacklist problem. A few weeks ago, I made a video talking about a third-party program that was actually going around the blacklist. It was effectively being able to find out everyone's character IDs through their account ID, which is visible via looking at the files on the blacklist. So not only did they, of course, put out a statement, but they've also stated that they are looking to add countermeasures to this in patch 7.2. Glad they actually decided to address that here, because it's a pretty major thing. And if they went by without talking about it, even just the acknowledgement of it in the live letter, I feel like was important. And I honestly think they probably could find a solution to this faster, but the fact that they are doing it at all is probably good news. I say probably only because until we see the solution and see it if it actually works, and see if it's, because if it's just an encryption, for example, there's the chance that there's people out there dedicated enough to work around the encryption, and then they have to constantly re-encrypt it. So if anything, they should really take countermeasures to just not have it be something that's client-side data. But we don't know what the solution is, and they're not going to share it. They're not going to say, oh, we're doing exactly this. And then somebody's like, oh, well, you know, I guess I'll give up. Or you either get that or you get somebody who's just like, a challenge. It's like, yeah, no, they're not going to say exactly what they're doing. That would be not the smartest idea. But they are looking to have the blacklist fix to make sure that things like that tool do not work in 7.2. So yeah, they spend a whole section about this, just saying that. A few screenshots from MSQ, Ishtola, Wuklamat, Graha, Kryl, Creepy Sphene, as well as the new character, the Asahi Light, which we saw. This might be the scientist who actually created regulator technology, because that looks to be the regulator right in front of him. And everything else just looks to be kind of measurements around its stability or usability. Regulators are something that we are really trying to get away from the society. We understand that it's kind of normal for the Society of Alexandria, but we've learned through various story implements that the regulators are really, really bad. We especially learned that in 7.1, especially about how the regulators can be abused. And we also learned in the Arcadion how really bad using the beast souls actually is. So everything about the regulator technology, again, it lines up with the preservation kind of being the villain here, with the regulators being one of the preservation's main methods of kind of controlling the populace. And with Sphene being able to seemingly manipulate the regulators at will, and the Sphene being a creation of the preservation. Again, it just kind of trickles down for the preservation being the main problem. All the HSR players are like, stop saying preservation. Please stop. You're triggering my HSR brain right now. Listen, I have to. That's what they're called, all right? So yeah, MSQ actually looking to get pretty interesting. I thought that 7.1's cliffhanger was really good, so I'm really enjoying that. Then we have the new Allied Society. The Mamool Ja are up next, and they are going to be the Gathering Allied Society. If I had to make a prediction, the Moblins would probably be the crafting ones. I know a lot of people want the Yaqui to be involved, and to be fair, the Yaqui and the Moblins could be together. The Moblins don't even have to be in the zone where they currently are. I mean, you could have it like the Dwarves, for example. The Dwarves ended up being in Lakeland, even though the Dwarves are not naturally from Lakeland. So they could do something where the Yaqui and the Moblins work together. So I would maintain some hope that maybe the Yaqui get something involved. But yeah, they're going to be the Gatherers, the Mamool Ja, for the next patch. Then, of course, we have more Hildibrand. They said this one will be significantly longer of a Hildibrand quest. The first quest was meant to be introductory. This is what they consider the main story for Dawn Trail Hildibrand starting up in patch 7.2x. We got a nice femme fatale looking, what's her face? Nashu? Too early for me, apparently. So I really think the film noir is going to be coming in strong with this one, so I'm a big fan of that. I really enjoyed the start of this expansion's Hildibrand. Off to a very, very good start, so I'm glad to have it. So apparently, the community loved the Corn Servant so much that they're actually doing a Corn Servant side quest, which is hilarious to me. So if you are a big Corn Servant fan, you're going to be getting more corn. Definitely was on that. Yeah, so this is something they just kind of threw together because on social media, the Corn Servant was so popular. That's the only reason why we're getting that. Then we get into the more usual stuff. New Allagan tomestones. This patch's capped tome is going to be mathematics. I always repeat it just in case. Mathematics will be capped at 450 a week unless they announce in the next live letter that they're doing something different with that. It's the one that's capped at 450 a week. Our current ones, heliometry, that are capped at 450 will become the uncapped currency, and then the uncapped currency will be gone. You'll be able to exchange it for poetics, but it'll otherwise be completely gone. Or I'm not poetic, sorry. You'll be able to exchange it for heliometry. I don't know. Poetics is at the end of the expansion. Yeah. You'll be able to trade them up for it's like a 4 to 5 to 1 ratio for heliometry. So bear that in mind. Yoshi P says, by the way, for mathematics, when you go to exchange them in, they're going to ask you what a prime number is, or for a prime number. And if you guess it wrong, all of your tomes are going to go away. So I really hope that you know prime numbers for tomestones of mathematics, because otherwise your weekly farming is going to be completely wasted. Obviously, that's a joke, but it's funny, because he knows full well that people don't know prime numbers. But anyway, Yeah, this is the patch for mathematics. Duty support, Sunken Temple of Qarn is getting the duty support. If you forgot, in patch 7.1, they started adding them for the side dungeon. So Realm Reborn's optional dungeons are getting them in order, going from the lowest level to the highest. So Halatali was the first one to get one. Now Sunken Temple of Qarn, then Cutter's Cry, then Zamiel, then Ormvale, one would presume. And then probably, what's it called? The level 51 dungeon in Heaven's Ward. Steel Vigil? No, it's not Steel Vigil. What is it? I can't remember what vigil that is. It's been so long since I've run that. Dusk Vigil, that's the one. No, that's the Dusk Vigil. There you go. Yeah, Dusk Vigil. And then there's still the level 63, the Shisui, the Temple of the Shisui would also probably be the last one. I assume once all of those are done, they'll probably stop doing duty support for all of those dungeons as well. So Qarn's going to be interesting because I don't know how much they're going to change it or streamline it, but I'll definitely be sure to take a look and make a video about it. That's a free video for me. Okay, PvP caught me by surprise here. So the usual PvP stuff, Series 8 is going to begin, but they finally acknowledged we're thinking about making rewards for past PvP series obtainable again. I mean, you told us you were going to do that. What do you mean you're thinking about it? You just mean like now's the time? Okay, well, finally, they're going to be going back and doing the old PvP series rewards and making them available in some capacity. It's been a long time request. It's something they said they were going to do in the first place. It seems they've just finally remembered that. So that was surprise number one. Surprise number two, so not a surprise, but PvP action adjustments and new PvP actions, pretty normal. But Frontline Secure is coming back after a 3-year hiatus. Astrologo's still gone, which they said would also be coming back. But Frontline Secure is going to be coming back in 7.2 with adjustments relative to the new PvP updates. So it looks like they are adding methods of getting around the map a lot faster, specifically the jump portals. Now, if you've done turn 3 of Coil or turn 8 of Coil, then, or even Fractal Continuum as a dungeon, then you've seen these platforms before. These allow you to quickly hop from platform to platform with, just stepping onto them and stepping onto the arrow of the direction. So it seems like one of their methods of getting around how annoyingly large the secure map was considered, especially with the vertical elements in the middle, is that they are going to allow you to get around the map and to and through the objectives a whole lot faster. So I'm actually very interested to see how that goes. You can see one of the sides of the map right here. There's a teleporter as well as a capture location right here. You still have the fight in the middle for the big Allagan turret that is there as well. So Secure making its return. It's just good to see Secure coming back. It's a mode I always was kind of okay with, but it just felt like the map size and design was just too much of a hassle compared to the other ones. I still think they should make smaller maps and just do 2 teams instead. But if we're not going to get that, then this is probably the next best thing. And yes, the cliffs are still here. It looks like you can still play the knockback game if you're a big fan of things like that, or the pull-off game if you're also like a Dark Knight or something like that. So I haven't actually looked at the new PvP skills much. I should really do that. I should sit down and do, like, I said this in another video, I should sit down and look at all the PvP adjustments in 7.1. Then we have the new dungeon, the Underkeep. We actually saw a screenshot of this on social media the day before the live letter came out. I don't know why I didn't think of the name the Underkeep. I was like, oh, well, this is under the Everkeep. Maybe they'll call it like old Alexandria or the Old World or something. The Underkeep was such an obvious name. I feel stupid for not guessing it. Yeah, so as you may remember, in the end of 7.0, we went to... We went to Living Memory, and in Living Memory, we actually go to Alexandria. But the Underkeep is actually the ruins of the original Alexandria. Specifically, this is the castle. Alexandria Castle from Final Fantasy IX, all torn up. Looks pretty nice on the inside, though. You can see this is the dance hall. It's got a bunch of crates and stuff in the back as well. It's, of course, got this classic hallway, the re-rendition of the Final Fantasy IX hallway, leading up to both the throne room as well as the actual center of the castle there in the back. That's where the open door is as well. And this is actually going to lead into a very exciting announcement as well. So then they went into the Arcadion. We have our cruiserweight division. And yes, that is the Brute Bomber on the left, playing with some kittens. You can see that we have Black Cat and her sister, one of her sisters in the back, Wicked Thunder, nowhere to be found. And we have what looks to be probably one of the new competitors here on the right. They don't really have too much to say about Arcadion. They also didn't mention the 1 week delay. So for those who don't know, in 6.2 and 6.4, they added a 1 week delay on Savage. Normally in the even numbered patches prior to that, Normal and Savage would release on the same day. They made Normal, the crafted gear, and the tomes all release on 6.2 and 0.4. And then 1 week later, Savage became available. They did not make mention of that here. I assume it's going to be the same, but no mention of it is actually kind of frightening, because I definitely like that to continue to be the case. Hopefully it was just an omission of a detail and not an exclusion of a feature. So then we see a new Lalafell with a spray paint can. Yoshi P said that he's very curious to see how players feel about her in the cutscene and now versus how they feel about her after completing the raid. So be very, very scared. We also get to see one of the battle arenas, and it is a Friday night disco theme. So, few things. One, I would definitely expect random AoE blasts coming from light reflecting off of the disco ball, as well as some dance or tile-related mechanics. There's a lot of different colored tiles there as well. So I would expect there to be quite a bit of dancing around the arena here, but we're definitely getting the disco mechanics. Okay, now they sandwiched Arcadion between the dungeon and the trial. Before I scroll down, if you're watching this and you haven't seen it yet, just tell yourself, what do you think the trial is? Because a lot of people weren't sure what direction they were going to go with it. And it definitely went in a direction that I didn't expect. In that's Beatrix from Final Fantasy IX, but in robot mode like Otis. Otis is technically Steiner from Final Fantasy IX, so Beatrix is in a similar vein, a giant robot. It looks like it's Eliminator tech. It looks like they used the same technology to build the Eliminator as they did to mechify Beatrix here. Now, that also means that the trial is almost certainly part of the MSQ, which I don't like. I would have preferred a separate trial series this expansion versus MSQ trials, only because I like that extra opportunity to dive into another story. I was expecting maybe an ancient like Tyrol the Drawl or something of that nature, maybe the Black Waltzes or something in that vein, since I figured they would go with a Final Fantasy IX theme. I just didn't think Beatrix and MSQ would be there. Now, in Final Fantasy IX, you actually never defeat her, so it's pretty funny to see that she's here. And if there was any denying that it's Beatrix, A, that's her sword. B, those are roses in the back. Her song is called Roses of May. Yeah. So I expect Clem Hazard. I expect, what's it called? Shock and Stockbreak, I think it's called. I just played through 9, so you'd think I know, but you would also require me to care. But yes, the new trial is going to be against Beatrix. The official name is the Recollection, Normal, and Extreme, but the boss is, without a doubt, Beatrix. Very interested to see how the Roses of May remix is going to sound, because they're probably going to do something absolutely nutty with it. Absolutely nutso. So they are actually in the process of finishing their development. They had to fix something with the arena and the way that it actually looked. They said the normal mode has too many mechanics right now in testing, and so they're probably going to dull that down a little bit. And then otherwise, good luck. That's all they had to say. Our next Unreal is Suzaku. I predicted this, so not really surprised in any capacity. And after giving us all the basic details, they took a quick 15-minute break and then came back to talk about stuff that is brand new in 7.2, the stuff we have been waiting to find out. And that is very specifically Cosmic Exploration, the Occult Crescent, aka Crescent Island, as well as the Relic weapon. So to be fair, Relic weapon, brand new, but when we get to it, it'll make sense. So Cosmic Exploration, for those who haven't been keeping up with news, is our Ishgard restoration / diadem equivalent content, meaning it is firmly rooted in crafting and gathering. Everyone on your server works together to build up and restore life to planets. So we're basically going to a dull rock, very similar to our own moon, and we are going to be cultivating a moon base on that. Then we are going to be going from planet to planet in subsequent patches in order to help explore and restore life to those planets. Now, it's interesting because the aetherites that the Loporrits use are effectively used to basically support life. So having the Loporrits alongside us, as you can see in the artwork, means very likely that their aetherite technology helps play a pretty pivotal role in all of that. So I'm very curious to see how that goes. So discover a new star ripe for exploration in each major patch of the 7.x series. So you'll start with kind of this wide open area. Nothing's going to be built. There's a few different biomes that are going to be available, with crafting and gathering available in each of them. And it looks like the moon base and the crafting and gathering actually all happen in the same zone, which means you won't be going from like the firmament to the diadem and back to the firmament. And I'm just saying that's how it looks. We don't know that for certain, but it looks more like while you're there and inside of the zone that your world has created, that you'll be going between the biomes and going back to the actual center base. So you're not constantly hopping between instances in order to do it. I don't know. I'm just saying that's how it looks based on what they actually showed off here. So you can see, crafting and gathering, you're going to be completing missions and events as a community. So they said that this is something that they want you to work together with all the players on your server to help build up. But if you are also someone who is doing it after it's already been completed, they want to maintain the sense of advancement that you would normally get if you were present while the server was actively working on it. So it sounds like you as an individual probably have to contribute a minimum effort to advance your own version of this, but eventually you just catch up to the same version the whole server is on, and it just looks the same to everybody. It's not in individual zones. It's just individual phasing is the word I was looking for. It's very similar to how, let's say you're in the hinterlands and you haven't completed Heavensward's main scenario yet. Instead of Alexander being present in the back, there's just rocks. Like the same space is being occupied, but Alexander's not there. But then when you finish the MSQ, Alexander is there. But it doesn't matter whether you've completed it or not. Everyone still shares the same area. So it just phases in and out the things that are relevant to you. So very glad to actually be seeing that. So then they just start showing off a bunch of screenshots. You can see, there's nothing here. And then you start building the base. There's a few tents, the aetherite, some technology on the ground. You build it up. Now there's buildings in the back you can go into, zip lines that are being built. And the zip lines, as you progress, the zip lines actually help you get to and from the biomes much more quickly. Once they're built, you can see you can zip over to them doing this to make the actual content go a little bit faster. So there's some quality of life that comes from advancing your individual servers' planets. And I remember this is just one of many planets / rocks in the sky that we're going to be going to. So that's an important thing. Then looks like there's like vendors at some of these places. Not all of them you can go in. Some of them are just going to be for decoration to actually show some sense of advancement, not unlike Mordona or Idleshire. And they said that this is meant to be content that you'll do with a lot of other players around, that you'll be collaborative with other players on, and that they hope people enjoy it. They didn't give too much on the nitty-gritty details, but basically expect it to be very similar to the way that Diadem and the Firmament worked. I'd say that's a good baseline expectation. If you weren't around, you basically would go to the Diadem, gather a whole bunch of stuff, and then you could either turn in certain high-value collectibles from gathering, or you could use those to craft things that were also high value. So there's a handful of details there that are quite relevant. They may do something a little bit more advanced, but at this point, it would just be speculation. There are, of course, going to be rewards. For example, we have this mount. This is a mining bipedal robot. You can assume that it maybe is used for those large crystal veins in the background right there. We could also expect the Land Rover would probably be a mount of some kind that you could obtain from it. I would also expect its own set of crafting and gathering related stuff, as well as whether potentially be tools, armor, minions. Again, very similar in structure, I assume, to the Firmament's reward, structure. But yeah, a robot's going to be a good enough means of actually doing that. You can also see you have a Star Trooper outfit. There's coffee at Starbucks because you're in space. Anyway. And then, I don't know what the heck this is. We're cloning us and the Loporrits, I guess, at this point. I have no idea what this is. And then just, again, a few other screenshots here. Oh, and we have Naming Way. So this is actually Naming Way. Naming Way is probably going to be responsible for naming the planets. One would have to guess. For those who don't know, Naming Way is kind of like the original Loprit in pretty much every sense of the word. While the Loprits, there is like a Loprit base on the moon in Final Fantasy IV. I would say Naming Way precedes Final Fantasy IV. So I would say, yeah, Naming Way is like the original Loprit. So having him here with his like really gaudy red outfit is, he didn't say what way it is, but that's Naming Way's outfit. So I'd be very surprised if that's not Naming Way right there. So that's it for cosmic exploration. Again, just an introduction to it. Now we get into the battle content. This is our Eureka, our Bozia. This is the Shades Triangle, which our island that we're going to be going to in the Shades Triangle is the Crescent Island, the Occult Crescent, if you will. That is going to be the core. Now, we are going to be getting more zones for this in the future. I would assume one zone per major patch. Cosmic exploration will be getting a new planet every major patch, or at least we'll be getting more planets as we advance the major patch. So here we have, in the treacherous waters of Shades Triangle lies the Occult Crescent, an isle shrouded in mystery. Should you wish to unveil its secrets, you must explore the unmapped terrain and battle against the isle's inhabitants. Now, that's not saying that Crescent Island is the only location in the Shades Triangle. I'm assuming it's not. I'm assuming it's just the location of this first zone, and that we'll be exploring the other islands to explore more history. But there's a lot of very interesting technology here. It's very Nimian, which I wonder if like the Nimians were exploring out in the ocean and got lost in the Shades Triangle and just like effectively built their civilization on this island that died out at some point. Because that's what it looks like. It's very Nimian in a lot of ways. So I'm actually really excited because we do not get a whole lot of Nimian lore. We have a lot of information about Nimian lore, but we're very, I'd say relatively in the dark compared to a lot of other stuff that we've explored at this point. There's a few other races that we've explored a lot of, but it still feels like we don't see them enough, like the Gilmorans off Palace of the Dead. So I'm always down to learn more. So you can just see a few screenshots, some wide open fields. It's green. It's lush. I know a lot of people hated the like brownish World War II vibes of Bozia. So you don't have to worry about a dull environment. You're going to have something that is pleasant on the eyes at the very least. As you can see here, there's a boss arena, very Nimian in terms of technology. So you can see all of that, especially with the water. The water really lends credence to how familiar we are with Nim. Like I'd say I almost associate Nimian architecture with being near water. So I don't know if as someone who doesn't know enough about the Nimians, maybe that's deliberate, but that's how it seems at the very least. We have this kind of courtyard looking location with the more Aztec-y style stuff that we would have expected from the artwork. And then we just have a few basic enemies. So we have, just a Viper killing a random tiger. We have a small group of players killing a Brachiosaur. Please no Ultima, please no Ultima, please no Ultima. That's a Final Fantasy VI reference. Then we have some small party battles. We have what looks to be a Void Scent, which is never a good thing when you see a Void Scent. Never a good thing. Then we see a Living Flame battle as well. Boss from Final Fantasy V, which, by the way, Crescent Island is from Final Fantasy V, and that is going to be relevant here in just a minute. Then we have another one. We have an Ahriman. Looks like they're casting a Doom spell, probably a Gaze AoE if I had to guess. And then we have the large-scale critical engagement style content from Bozia as well. So this is very reminiscent of the different sizes of content from Bozia. They did say this would be a mishmash of the best of Eureka and the best of Bozia. So seeing critical engagement, seeing the more smaller scale bosses, all of that's very much within the realm of expectation of the way that Bozia was put together. And it seems that's being replicated here. In this boss, you can see the rock in the middle looks to be blasting off in 4 different directions. The boss is casting something, as well as there's fans in the back that might do some form of knockback as well. We also have the Gill Turtle here from Final Fantasy V, presumably. Again, since it's all Final Fantasy V reference, I assume this is the Gill Turtle. It also looks like there's Gill on the ground, like giant. So in Final Fantasy V, the Gill Turtle is found in a small stretch of cavern where every step you take, you get 2 times the amount of Gill that you got from the space before it. So it's like 1 Gill, 2 Gill, 4 Gill, 8 Gill, 16 Gill. But there's a high chance of encountering the Gill Turtle, who is a massively powerful enemy that will most likely kill you. So seeing the Gill patches on the ground is very likely a reference to that from the Gill Turtle. I mean, that looks more like gold, but I think the idea is still the same. It might not be gil. It might actually be gold in this particular case, but that's what looks to be happening. You also see a turtle shell. You can see a crystal on the ground. All sorts of references here to what the fight will have in store. Then we have another critical engagement. This is another Final Fantasy V enemy that I always pronounce wrong. It's like Forte de Emtail, or I don't know. But these are actually one of the most popular job power leveling enemies. Objet de Art. There you go. Objet de Art. Whatever the hell they're called. Objet de Art. However that's pronounced. Just who cares, right? So this enemy, you would usually find them in packs of 2 or 5. And interestingly enough, they actually have all the mechanics happening in sets of 5 here. There's 5 enemies in the middle doing the rotating AoEs, and then there's 5 enemies lined up in the back coming one way, and it looks like, you can't see all 5 of them, but it looks like another set of 5 dudes on the right doing a mechanic. So it looks like, even like as a reference, they are even just going with groups of 5, similar to the groups of 5 you would find them in Final Fantasy V. 5, 5, 5, 5, 5. But another critical engagement here. But yeah, these were used to farm job points. Then we have what looks to be a Castrum Lacus Latore equivalent. We don't get a name for what it is, but they said it's a 48-player raid. I don't assume this is Delubrum. I assume this is Castrum / Dalriata. It just makes sense. It's probably in the same zone. But that's going to be another thing that it has as well. Looking at very Demon Wally right here, which, again, would make sense for the Nimians in a sense. And then that's it for like kind of the overall like preview of what to expect. No mention of duels, which, while duels were cool, that rhymes, getting into them was a bit of a weird thing. So either there are no duels in this content altogether, or there's just no duels in this first zone. We don't fully know yet. They might be something that they're like saving for future zones. So like the zones gradually evolve instead of needing to do duels in every single zone. But we don't know. That's speculation at this point. Now let's get into what separates the content. What is the actual gimmick? Because Eureka has elemental levels. It has the bonus actions. Bozia has your resistance level. It has lost actions. So what is this one doing? And this is something I think a lot of people are really going to like, at least in theory. We need to see how it's executed. So first of all, you need to be level 100 in order to enter, and there's no mention of being able to level a job from 90 to 100. I'm 50-50 on that. I think leveling in 14 already has so many options that we don't need another one. We're also very likely to get we know they're working on a deep dungeon for this expansion. That's also going to be used to level, and the overlap between the two might not be the best thing. That usually tends to invalidate certain pieces of content when there's one method that overlaps that's just so much better. We saw it with Bozia, and it became a real problem with how good the leveling was there. So it seems like this will not be used to level. That's something they're leaving out of this one that Bozia did, but Eureka is more akin to Eureka as a whole. While exploring the Occult Crescent, players will be able to raise their knowledge level, Ty Lopez, greatly influencing the outcome of battles against the creatures of Xyle. You know what matters to me more than these 21 ultimate weapons I've collected? Knowledge. All right. So knowledge level will act as our elemental level. It seems it's basically an arbitrary way of kind of power gating the island. So you'll have to do the lower knowledge level content in order to gain levels to do the higher knowledge level content, or at least in order to gain rewards. In reality, most people end up completely disregarding that. Now, it could also be like resistance level, where your power is not that important. Like your resistance level doesn't determine how strong you are. It determines what actions you have access to and what content you can actually access. Now, knowledge level says it greatly influences the outcome of battles. So I would assume that it plays something closer to elemental level, in that it actually directly grants you the ability to, grants you power against these opponents. But it's left kind of ambiguous there. Then we get into the action system, Phantom Jobs. So we were told that this was going to have a support job style feature where you could equip additional jobs to your job in order to access additional actions. So in the Crescent Island, in the Shades Triangle, you will be able to access unique phantom jobs that you will be able to use to enhance the main job that you're actually playing as. When equipped, they will grant players new actions that can be used with their main jobs. Now, there are actions and there are traits. So it's a matter of which things you actually want to use, which passives you want, and which main actions you actually want to have access to. So here's an example that they give. Your main job is warrior. Let's say you go warrior monk. And monk would give you access to phantom kick and occult counter. So occult counter would basically mean that when you're attacked, you can attack back. You can occasionally execute an extra counter attack, and phantom kick is some sort of offensive ability with unknown attributes at the moment, just as it would increase your offensive capabilities. There's also Phantom Job Bard, which would give you access to Mighty March, which would allow you to buff your entire team to deal more damage. So effectively, everyone is going to have these extra abilities that they are going to be able to level up. Now, if we go back to the previous screenshot, first of all, they're using Final Fantasy V artwork. That's Bart's, the main hero from Final Fantasy V, and Phantom Freelancer, that's his Freelancer artwork from Final Fantasy V. So you'll see soon that they're basically using all the Final Fantasy V artwork for this. What's also worth noting is that it is level 1, which means you will have to level your individual phantom jobs while you are inside of there. We don't know how that's related to knowledge level precisely. We don't know if this is what your knowledge level actually helps determine or something else, but I assume it's a separate system. It also has the actual next level. It looks like Freelancer might be leveled. So I assume Freelancer will allow you to freely choose between every option. So the way Freelancer works in Final Fantasy V is for every job you master, Freelancer can basically pull from all of the actions of the other jobs and gives you a bonus action slot. So you've got a lot more freedom. Basically, by the time you're end game in Final Fantasy V, if you've been massively over job leveling, almost everyone goes full Freelancer, or in the case of casters, they would also go full Mime. So usually be Freelancer, Mime, which Mime does something similar-ish. So it could be that Phantom Freelancer can't be leveled, and it's just going to gain the power of the other ones, hence why there's no next level indicator right there. It could also just be because it's in development. There's no way of knowing, but that's my speculation of the sense. And then we have, I know Geomancer's cut off there on the left, but then we have some of the jobs. Now, these are just some of them. Geomancer, Time Mage, Ranger, Chemist, Berserker, and surprisingly Cannoneer. Cannoneer is only from the GBA and onward releases of Final Fantasy V, so I'm actually very surprised to see it on this list. That does actually mean Necromancer could be on the list of potential Occult Crescent and onward jobs. Now, we don't know how they're doing job unlocks either. In Final Fantasy V, you unlock jobs as you visit the various crystals. They break. You collect the crystal shards, and then the crystal shards give you jobs. Are they going to make us go find crystal shards on the island? I think that's reasonable to expect us to go explore to find the crystal shards all over the island in order to actually unlock the different jobs, which we can then go back and level. But these will all add different things and different traits that you can utilize to make whatever job that you're actually playing either stronger, more supportive, more healing capability, whatever it is you want to do. You're going to be able to customize it in some capacity using these extra features. So I'm very curious to see what kind of bonus actions they actually have. Also, I'd like to be clear. I don't know if this means you can have 2 support jobs at any given time. I think these are just 2 different examples, and this screen tends to support that. So I wouldn't take this as 2 separate jobs on the same warrior. These are just 2 different options that warrior could possibly use. I just wanted to clarify because I know there was some confusion about that when the slide came up the first time while we were watching the live letter. And more. And then I'd assume as we go deeper into the Isle, like new zones, more jobs will become available as well. So it's not just the and more for this patch. I assume that as we go through more patches, we will also unlock more phantom jobs as well. They also were completely clear that while they are doing a lot of these jobs because they don't expect they'll be added to Final Fantasy XIV because conceptually they just don't inherently make a lot of sense. Very similar to the reason they give for limited jobs. They are also not saying that they would not make any of these their own jobs in the future. So maybe they do want to do Ranger as a job in Final Fantasy XIV at some point. This doesn't mean Ranger will never be a job. It just means that Ranger will be a thing here. Now, that's classic Yoshi P PR talk for basically trying not to ruin people's dreams without actually lifting their dreams up any higher. He uses Time Mage as an example of one that he doesn't think they would add, but he's just saying he's not ruling it out. He's not ruling out ever doing Ranger at some point. So that's it. But he even says, I was also told players know and say to don't trust Yoshi P, so take that as you will. And yes, again, this will continue to get updates in every major patch as we go forward. A lot of players from around the world gave feedback on both this and the weapon quests. We always get the feedback that our weapon side quests are too much, that we made them too easy. Now they're too easy. It's difficult finding the right balance. So this time for the relic weapons, they're going back to a Bozia style relic weapon where you can either advance the relic inside of the Occult Crescent that we were just showing off, or you can engage in other existing activities. That's very similar to the way Bozia worked, and people have a very mismatched memory of how that actually went. If you understood Bozia, it was actually very quick to do inside of Bozia. Minus I'd say like the step where you have to do the alliance raids, the one-time step where you have to do the alliance raids. I think it was the Stormblood ones. That's probably one of the examples where obviously you stepped outside to do it. But for the most part, the speeds were about equal, and people had a pretty successful time either like spamming the alliance, the like Crystal Tower for their upgrade materials, or going inside. It was just a matter of people not fully understanding how the content itself actually worked. And so I'm curious to see how they will strike the balance in this one as well, because they were pretty close to balanced before when it came to your options for advancement. I'd say there were a few that were lopsided towards doing them. Well, actually, they were almost always lopsided towards doing them inside unless the step required you to do them outside. So it's a bit of a weird case where it really depended on the type of content you were into. Yeah, but the farm routes in Bozia were very effective, but then a lot of people chose to do them outside as well. So this is the right call. I will do them inside the Occult Crescent. I will do all of them inside of the Occult Crescent. I will do all of them inside of whatever zones we get for the exploration zones, because I personally prefer to be able to kill two birds with one stone like that. So I'm looking forward to it. And there will be even more details on that in the next letter from the producer live. And that was it for the live letter. So we got the front lines, the new zone. We got to see the new trial. I mean, we got all the usual stuff, plus all the stuff that is brand new to 0.2. No mention of variant or criterion. I didn't think we were going to get a criterion in this patch. I thought maybe because we got Sil D in 0.25, but with Savage, with Cosmic, with Occult Crescent, with the Relic, I was like, no, they probably leave it for the odd-numbered patch, because we're probably not getting another Chaotic next odd-numbered patch. So they probably do Criterion next patch and see how that goes with the updated reward structure. There's also a high probability of another Ultimate next odd-numbered patch. Plus, we have the new 24-man, so we'll see how that actually ends up going. Plus, we now know this is going to get updated. We know Cosmic's going to be updated in 0.3, and we're expecting a new Deep Dungeon in 0.3 as well. So 0.3 is going to be that's going to be a busy one. But then we get into what we call the QVC section. This is just where they show off all their merchandise and collaborative efforts. And apparently they're doing a collaboration with Fujifilm where players are getting a picture-taking emote in 7.18. Now, you don't need to buy a camera or anything. Apparently, it's just an emote that's being added in 7.18. That's it. And they are doing a screenshot sweepstakes to commemorate this collaboration as well. So there, in 7.18, I mentioned earlier, you were getting something extra on top of Savage unlocking. Everyone's getting the caught in 4K emote right here. So there's that. More details on the lodestone later. Now, this was also an interesting thing. They're doing a Vanadil discount campaign. So what this is if you have an active Final Fantasy XIV subscription and you sign up for Final Fantasy XI, your first paid month will be discounted. Now, I have to very specifically say first paid month, because Final Fantasy XI does come with a free month when you initially buy it and sign up. But it looks so your then second month of playing would then be discounted. They're going to be going over more details, so I'll have a dedicated video on it when those details are on the lodestone. But it's a good time. And I actually just started a Final Fantasy XI Let's Play series with 1, sometimes 2 videos a week, where I'm just going through on a brand new character, playing the story for people who haven't played it, giving people advice on how to actually advance through the game. So if you want to follow along with that, and then when the campaign itself comes around, you have some idea of what you're doing, Be sure to give it a peek. Now, in case you're curious of how much you can get done in 2 months of Final Fantasy XI, the free month plus the discounted month, I'd say if you play a lot, you can actually get almost all of the stories done, except for the newest one, the Voracious Resurgence. It's unlikely you would get that done in 2 months, but most people also wouldn't be able to put Final Fantasy XI time into Final Fantasy XI. You could still get a pretty reasonable amount done. You could definitely see through several expansion packs, maybe even Rhapsodies of Vana'diel in that time, in that 2 month time frame, I'd say with reasonable expectation. So pretty good time overall. Then we have, and it's because we received positive feedback about Juno from players who played 11 before, so we thought this might be a good opportunity to make entry into that world a little easier. Could also be a preview to a longer-term discount campaign in the future. Who knows? They're also doing a collaboration with Don Tacos in Japan to have, like, themed bags for Final Fantasy XIV. That's in Japan only. It's basically like a Dorito, like a nacho chip snack. They went over the Black Milk clothing collaboration. Yoshi P tried on the trench coat looking thing here that's over the actual world map dress. So you can see him just standing there and that. The Primals live in Japan, Darkest Before Dawn Blu-ray set will be coming to North America and Europe in March. So there's that as well. And then that was it for the live letter. Looks like that is, yeah. Looks like that's it. And just a few quick messages from Miyuna and Luna Minori. Thumbs up for me right there at the end. Making sure to throw that in there. Unrelated, but also damn right. All right. And that is going to be a wrap for live letter number 85. Pretty high level stuff, but exciting. Definitely a few surprises here or there. And of course, at this point, the main complaint of it taking too long to get to the style content is going to be moot for a while. But I'm going to keep echoing that this style of content, very exciting, very cool, very Final Fantasy coded, shouldn't have taken until 0.2x. And mind you, Occult Crescent's probably in May. It's 0.2x, which means it's probably in May, not in March, not in April. So I'm just saying, it shouldn't have taken this long. And that in future expansions, I really hope it doesn't, because I think that's the most vocal everyone's going to be. Even Cosmic Exploration could have happened ages ago. So reprioritize. I would have gladly have waited for Chaotic for a future patch and gotten Occult Crescent for more people will probably play in Access than this. Same with the Relic weapon as well. So fingers crossed that this is the last time we have to have this discussion after Occult Crescent comes out. Fingers hecking crossed that the long form content hits the expansion earlier and the short form content hits the expansion a little bit later. Anyway, that is now a wrap for live letter number 85. Thank you for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe and let me know what you think of the various previews that we received in the comment section as well. Expect a few opinion pieces about some of the various things in here, as well as some of the announcements on the Lodestone, especially the Vana'diel campaign. Be sure to check out that Final Fantasy XI Let's Play. It's on part 3 with part 4 ready to come out next Wednesday. And I might even do a couple of double part episodes throughout February or March, in which case the second episode will be on Saturdays. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one. Until then, take care.